Hi, I'm Todd. I am going to be talking a little bit today about the third book in the Nightrunner series by Lynn Flewelling. It's called Traitor's Moon. I usually record these videos during the day, but I think it's rather fitting that I do this one at night because the book is called Traitor's Moon. But excuse the weird lighting. It begins with Sergil and Alec in a self-imposed exile. They have run off together away from the hustle and bustle of Rimini, away from society in general, to live alone together in the north. They're kind of in this camp-like situation. They've got kind of a cottage and are kind of living off the land. And I was really happy to find these characters in this situation. I felt like after everything they had gone through in the last two books that they needed a bit of a break. And it made me really happy to see them just with themselves, just being a couple. And this was all new to Alec, and I think it probably was best for him to kind of come to terms with this relationship that he never probably would have expected to have been in with another man, kind of out of the glare of the city life, the city people's eyes. So that made me very happy to see that they had had a break, because they have been put through it in the first two books. So they've been there for 2 years, but trouble has not stopped brewing in the world. Plenamar is still being very, very aggressive, still inching its way westward into Mycenae, and being troublemakers. So, and I'm very careful not to give spoilers, but it's hard to talk about these books without. So I'm hoping that if you're watching this, you have read the first two books, but if not, I think it might be safe to watch this. So they're living off the land, enjoying each other. It's a beautiful, wonderful thing they're having, and Becca now is Captain Becca, and her battalion, there's a word for it, I can't quite remember, but her battalion are called the Akindi, and they got this name in a very interesting way, which I'll let you find out for yourself, but it basically means wolf, and I believe it's a Plenamaran word, but I won't say any more as to how they got that name, because it's cool the way they get their name. And she is charged with gathering Sergil and Alec and Clea, the queen's daughter, and they are charged with heading down to Oranen, which is Sergil's homeland, to rally support for Scala in the war. It is not looking good for Scala. Plenamar may or may not be winning the war that's happening. The war in this book is actively going on. There's, as in the second, there is no kind of threatening. It is a real problem now. And so Sergil I read in a review again. I hate that I read reviews before I read the book, and I try not to. But one I did read one, and it stuck with me, and I wish I could credit the person. This is not original, but a reviewer I read said Sarah Gill needed this book, and after having read the book, I could not agree more with that sentiment. Sarah Gill was so damaged emotionally from so many things. The events of the last two books and the events prior to our introduction to him. I thought he really did need this. This is really Sarah Gill's book, in my opinion. Of course, he's not the main storyline, but in a lot of ways, Sarah Gill, you're getting his backstory. You're going to his land. You're finding out more in depth what happened. How did he end up exiled in Scala? It's a fascinating story. It's really well done. I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of these books. But he's coming. It's a homecoming for him. It's the first time he's been back to his land since he was exiled as a very young boy. And it's very, very interesting to get his backstory. There are, but not just his actually, although it's not nearly as much focused on Alec and his backstory, you also get a lot more insight into Alec's story. What happened to where is his mother? Who was his mother? Who was his father? Why were they nomadic? How did they end up where a lot of these questions you get a broader understanding on. Now I'm already tearing through the fourth one, Shadow's Return, and I can see even more being explained, but you get it's a very satisfactory explanation and backstory to Alec's story as well. So Plenimar is pushing westward into Mycena, and things are not looking good for Scala. Our boys are sent on this diplomatic mission to Aranen to rally support. So we've got Captain Becca, and she, without giving anything away, I think it's safe to say, she gets a love interest. I was happy to see that for her. I really enjoy her character. She is a badass woman warrior. I love the total dissolution of gender roles with Flewelling. Male, female, doesn't matter. She is a badass, and she kicks ass through the second book. She's kicking ass through the third, and I love that. But she gets a little love interest in this, and it's funny in times. It's sad and heartbreaking in times. But you have to see how it plays out. Let's see. We've got Clea, who is the queen is Idrilane, and she's got a handful of daughters and one son, Carathan. And at this point, you know that it's the women that are the queens. They run Scala. And the eldest daughter is Foria. And Clea seems to be a black sheep in her family in that she is kind of a more peaceful person, a more understanding, a more diplomatic, let's chat this out, let's talk through this kind of person, whereas her brother and sisters seem a bit more reactive. And maybe why they're that way is explained a bit. So you get a lot of the story there. Foria, her elder sister, finds herself with some newfound power, and how she reacts to that is interesting. She is kind of a very suspicious, herself being suspicious, but also she does a lot of very suspicious things, which you know already from the first book. Some of the things she was doing, like what's going on? There's still, even now in the fourth, where I am in the fourth, it's still like, there's a lot more going on here, and her story is clearly being revealed through the entire series. Torsen's an interesting character. He's an older gent who is an envoy from Scala. He's a Scalan man, a noble, who has been living in Arnon as kind of the diplomat for Scala, the face of Scala. So he is very wise in the way of the Arnon people. He's an older man, and he's there to assist our lover boys and Becca and the crew with this mission. Some intrigue there. You don't know really what to make of him, and when you read it, as you should, you'll see why. Thero is back, thank goodness. I love Thero. He's one of my favorites. I mentioned that before. I love him. I think he's such a cool character. I love his Fall Guy kind of role in the books. However, in this one, it's maybe not so much. He's certainly softened. He's kind of come out of the Oresca house and been exposed to more things and people, and maybe had a heartbreak, maybe, and it's nice. The relationship between he and Sarah Gill has softened considerably, but there's still that kind of big brother, little brother antagonism between the two, which is very fun. Niall is a new character. He is Arn Fey. He is acting as an interpreter for the Akindi and the folk who might not speak the language. He's a very interesting character. He is described as this dashingly beautiful, turning the heads of both men and women man, and he has a lot in common, I think, with Sarah Gill and Alec, in that he might be a little involved in things that you might not know about in the beginning. He's got some suspicion going on. There's certainly some intrigue around him. He's got long ears, and I think that's the name of a chapter in the book, Long Ears, meaning he hears things that he's able to hear things from across a field, and anyway, he's not got superpowers or anything, but he's got his hands and eyes and ears and a lot of pots. Within Arnon, this is such a cool book because you really understand Sarah Gill, and his character makes a lot more sense when you know a lot of this backstory and this land that he comes from, which is light years different from Scala. The Aranfei are long-lived. They live for centuries, just like the wizards at the Oreska house do. And they're wizards because they're mixed with the Aranfei. They're half-breeds. There are 11 clans. They all have a leader called a Kirnari. There's no central leader, per se. So each clan has a Kirnari who's kind of the voice for them, like a governor maybe of a state or something like that. There's one point in the book I have to mention that I loved. There's minor clans as well. So there's the 11 major clans, and then there's a bunch of minor ones. But one of the most beautiful points in the book, I thought, a minor clan was performing. Each clan has like its own kind of version or flavor of magic. They all have kind of this kind of funny specialty. Like, for example, the Akindi clan, they're really good with weaving and charms and these magical charms that they do. That's really neat. But one of the minor clans they're dancers. And there's this wonderful scene where Sergel and Alec and the envoy are observing this dance of the Talimeños, and I hope I'm saying that right. But Talimeños are lovers. They're male, female, 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 male, male, whatever. Two lovers. And the Talimeños are so spiritually connected they can almost read each other's thoughts. And these two, Alec is paying special attention to two men dancing, and it just is such a beautiful scene. If you've read the book, maybe it stands out for you as well. I was eating that up. I thought it was so beautiful. So the clans. I'll just mention a couple that are maybe the most important ones. The Akindi, and you've got Amali is the wife of the Kirnari Riagel. She's a younger girl with an older man. She feels very strongly for her clan and feels like she's there. She may have left another character in the book heartbroken so that she could do her duty for her clan, and they are in bad shape. There has been a edict of separation that Arnon has observed, meaning they don't mix with the other countries, lands. And it has been very hard on their clan. They're kind of broke and busted. And this proposal that Clea is bringing would greatly benefit them. It would open up trade for them. So they have a lot riding on this kind of hearing that's happening. Another clan is the Haman. The Haman are, and what is the name of Nazian? Nazian is their Kirnari. These are the guys that Sergel wronged, and they and maybe some other clans are not thrilled to see this exile Sergel back. in, exile means you can't come back. So here he is, and so they're not real thrilled with this kind of Arnon law being shaken up. Another major clan are the Varese, and I'm not sure if the Varese is a city, but I think that they are actually part of the Golanil clan, or they could be their own clan. Anyway, their Kernari Ulan is a major character, super kind of villain, you think. I won't say if he is or not. But there's certainly, again, intrigue surrounding him, secret meetings going on, and you're reading about them. Who is he loyal to? Is he a man that's really got the best interests of his clan at heart? Is he a man that's chatting to the Plenimarans? Is he a man who is just ethically opposed to mixing with the Tyr meaning other folk? And of course you have the Bakthursig clan, which is Serigil's clan. I mentioned Serigil's sisters. Adzriel is the Kernari. That's his eldest sister. She took care of Serigil. So Adzriel certainly has motivation for wanting this sort of passageway to open back up between Scala and Arnon. She wants her brother back. She loves him, and she wants the exile lifted from him, or at least relaxed in some way. She wants to be a part of his life. It's kind of a heart-wrenching thing. The majority of this story takes place in a Aran Fey holy land called Sarakali. And it's so holy and magical that the Skalan folk are blindfolded at certain points during the passage. Maybe because they don't want them to know how to get there. Maybe there's some magic at work. You have to read, find out. Within this holy land, there are these mystical folk called Ruiaros, and they play a role in kind of guiding characters, giving them advice in their own way, in these kind of riddly kind of ways. But they're very interesting, and certainly also played some part in Serigil's past, and you learn a lot more about that. This book was wonderful, of course. This series has been amazing. This book is certainly different from the first two. It's not filled with the kind of action, go get 'em, fight 'em, sword play that you find in the others. It's got a lot of courtly intrigue, which I personally love. If you like conspiracies and trying to figure out who is motivated by what, as again with Flewelling, this is a fantasy book by category only. There's so many other things going on. There's elements of horror. There's this is just about a whodunit. It's almost a mystery novel. I don't think it's giving anything away to say that there's been a murder or murders, and you are trying to figure out who done it. and it's fantastic. I loved it. I was surprised many times. There's twists and turns and things you just couldn't possibly expect. Um, it is different from the other two in that way, though. It is, again, a lot of courtly intrigue and negotiations happening, and it's certainly a turn from the other two. But I think, again, I thought it was extremely refreshing. I loved the this kind of downtime that Sergil and Alec are given at the beginning, and almost through this book, they are kind of, all these other things are going on, and there's drama for sure, but they are kind of just finally like allowed to be themselves with themselves. And I love to see that. There's so many tender moments between the two characters scattered throughout the book, some funny moments, but it's just sweet and natural, and maybe how it really would be. It's not a gimmicky thing that these are two men together. It just seems totally natural to the story, and in a lot of ways realistic. Again, I can't recommend these books enough. I'm well into the fourth one, and I am raging through it, just tearing through it. And I don't want to say anything about that one yet. I'll do a video on that one too. As always, if you've read these books and you have anything to contribute, or you have any recommendations for other fantasy books, I love talking about books. So thank you, Lynn Flewelling, again for another wonderful installment. I went ahead and got the whole rest of the series that's waiting on me, and I can't wait to get through them. Thank you so much for watching.